Hi. Proclaim overview. So Proclaim is everything that we use for our Sunday morning worship gatherings. That's where we put all of our media, all of our slides, any photo, graphic, video, content, anything like that that's going to go up on the screens or is going to be lower thirds for the stream is going to go through Proclaim. So I'm going to give you a quick overview. If you've never used it before, just the very basics. So this will be part one. We'll have how to load media for a pastor or someone preaching is going to go in there too. But I'm going to give you a brief overview, show you kind of what we're working with. So let's jump in. So you have your desktop, and for me, I've got Proclaim right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and open that. Now you are going to see where it wants to check for any updates, anything like that. Proclaim updates pretty frequently. So there's quite a bit of updates that come out for Proclaim. And it's web-based, it's internet-based, so it is going to need to sync up. So that way it can stay up to date. Since it's cloud-based, you can use it from anywhere. So any other computer, any computer that you've downloaded Proclaim to, you can update information, you can update content, all of that. You can do it from home as long as you have an account that's part of your group. It's exactly what you need. So right here you have our main screen here. So this is your edit tab. If you look up here on the top side, you'll see edit and preview. You'll see an on-air button, and then you'll have this sync status things here. You'll have your own profile picture here, other alerts, any notifications here, and any other recordings. Up here you have your typical menu bar. You'll use this periodically, but first things first, you want to make sure that you're working on the right week. So up in the top left, you'll see your title. You'll see what the date is set for, and you will see all of your content here on the left side. This is going to give you all your content, everything that you would see on a Sunday. It's going to go and be over here on this side. These are folders. So you see pre-service loop, gives you the time of how long that takes. You see the warm-up here is usually where we have our countdown video. You have the actual service itself, and it'll have your start times. Now this has been altered because we did something a little bit different this past week, but normally that'll say 9:30 and 11 o'clock for us. And then you'll see the service. So we have these timer cues built in, and what that does is that communicates with Planning Center. And Planning Center specifically is linked up here so that we can keep track of timing, all of that, and our light cues we have set up automatically through here as well. So here on the left-hand side, you'll see this is a confidence timer cue, and so that lines up with how long the song typically takes. And so it will be a green timer until you go over, then it's red, basically yelling at you. So we have 3 songs here on the front half. We have 3 songs here on the front half, and then you see this 1 minute, 3 second confidence timer going into the bumper. And so the bumper video plays. You have a blank slide here that has a timer on it. You have whoever was preaching that day. You have timing on that so that things automatically move. And then you have your main slide. So like your sermon graphic here. This one is timed. Then you have one that we have set up for you to wait at. And then you have your actual sermon content. So one thing that may be hard to get used to is here in the middle section is where you're actually going to be doing all of the editing. Unlike in other programs like PowerPoint, things like that, you don't do anything here, for the most part, where you're seeing your preview of the slide content. That just shows you what your edits in the middle section will look like. So, for example, you have at the very top here, you have the big idea for this sermon, which was the place for God's people is the place of God's presence, which is the place of God's provision. And so when you see this, you see that text has appeared here, formatted the way that we want, and it's going to match up with other pieces. You can edit all of those things throughout here. Double dashed lines here that's going to be for your line breaks, so your blank slides here within the middle. That way, if whoever is delivering the message breaks in between where they're saying this first part, you have just some blank slides where it's like, hey, there's no note for this piece. This is just where you just need to be listening. So we break that up a little bit so it's not just the same content sitting there until the next content's ready. It gives a nice break. And then you would move into your first point and all that. And so, like I said, we'll go into another video on how to load and format based off of our current visual standards. But that gives you an idea. If you're trying to get content on the screen, it's something like this. Now, what we do is we typically just duplicate the week before. So we make a new Proclaim file that's just a duplicate of the week before so that things are mostly the same. But still, that's the basic concept of how it works. So that's where your text content goes. Now, you'll see that there are certain signals all built in through here that are the Bible references themselves. So you'll see that slide content here. You'll also see where it says stream foreground only. This is where you are setting up, essentially, it's a different display. And the separate display, it's like a separate screen, but that is just going, that's our lower thirds content that just goes to the stream. So that same text content is now formatted as foreground only. And you can see your basic transparency throughout here. It shows the Bible verses. The same ones are going to match up with what we have in the room. And your main points and all of your points are going to show up as lower thirds content instead of full screens there during the live stream itself. So if you're watching the live stream, that will be lower thirds content. It doesn't take up the whole screen. And that goes all the way through there. You can also see we have a separate display set up for our confidence monitor. And so this confidence monitor shows you a preview of what things look like in the room on that back screen. And so it gives this timer location here is where the timer itself will be, the countdown timer for whoever's delivering the message. And so that gives all that information there. But primarily, you're going to be sticking in the slides, parentheses, content folder piece here. So back over here to the left-hand side, you'll see we had communion this past week. And so that's typically a group, or we have communion this next week, sorry. And so we have some things saved in groups. So that way you can duplicate just the entire thing or copy it from another week. And so we have our entire communion block here ready to go, where we have our lighting cue, which you can see under signals, that PCO live next. So that's a MIDI cue from what we're looking at now to what would be next as far as lighting goes. We'll get into cues and all of that. I'll probably have Timothy do the deep dive on that one, but that's the general concept on all of those pieces there. We have separate slide content, like you can see that communion slide there. You have Bible passages, full screens, all of that ready to go. For our songs, you have here in the middle, that's the same piece where it's music, where you put all of your text throughout here. You can put your arrangement, all of that information here. You can put all of your attributions down here. That way all of the crediting goes to whoever's song it actually is. And all the lyrics are right here. So if there's anything that's misspelled, easy to change, just do that in the middle section here. Most things are ready to go though. So it gives all of that information. And then at the end you have song end light cue timed. And so that means that it has this light cue built into it. And then you see that 3-second timer there. That's how long it will be on that slide until it auto advances to the next slide. Now we have the send off here at the bottom, which I forgot to rename this. So it gives you a good idea. Everything goes based off of the title of what the piece is. So here you see it says Cooper Patrick Blue, but it says Michaela Markins Worship Team. So I'm just going to rename this Michaela Markins Blue. because we have different name card slides where this is a basic template underneath, and we can update the information here. Now, you may notice I made a change, but now we don't have our check mark. We have these 3 dots in a circle up here. And what that means is that the change that I made has not synced up yet. It has not been synchronized. So you can click on this. It'll say synchronization in progress. And then synchronization complete. Now anyone, as long as they have synced on their device, will see the change that you just made. So as you scroll down, we can double check on the stream, make sure that this looks good, since the lower thirds aren't going to look exactly the same, remember. And maybe worship team's a little too far over. I can inch that over just a little bit. And yeah, that looks a little bit better. Hit our sync button. Now you don't have to do that after everything, because a lot of times it will just sync up for you if you go a couple minutes. But that way we know that's done before we move on to our next piece. Now, our ending screens, we want those to be full screen in the room as well, but for the stream, it's a little bit more catered information. So if you look at these pieces here, you'll see that's not remotely close to what it says here on the screen. Well, in the room, we have a little bit more access to people, and so we can say, hey, check the seat in front of you, the seat back in front of you for a red card, and that's going to be how you can connect with us. But if they're not in the room, what can they do? Well, the only option they have is to text the number on the screen. And so by texting the number on the screen, or they can text the word Vandalia to the number on the screen. That's how they can connect with us from where they are at that point. Same goes for our giving slide. So we have in the room our ways to give. If people want to contribute to the work here at our church, you've got that. Or if they're online, you've got that all in the lower thirds there as well. That way they can still see what's going on in the room. Now, this is one that hasn't been done yet, but same thing will go here. You'll see a difference here. You may see for the connection card, if you pay attention right here, you'll see slides, content, stream is the slide. Well, we'll say the same thing here, but you see it goes to mirror. When it says mirror, what it's doing is it's mirroring for the stream whatever is on that first tab. So currently, you'll notice this is in a lower third. So we're going to make one, but that's why that looks the way that it does. So you can either go slide blank, or you can remove background and then upload a separate graphic to go in this place, and that's what we're going to do. So we've got that. In a Bible passage, same concept here. The way we've been doing it is the reference will be thin and in italics, and then the actual bulk of the text will be either regular or bold and not italicized. So you'll see that. That's already preset. That's ready to go. And then you'll have, again, your timer cues here that end what's happening in Planning Center. You have your end of service loop here. At the end of service, we have this announcement slide loop. You see this 10-second mark here, and then that little circle means that it auto advances to the next slide. So we see connection card, we see follow first light, bulletin 2024, feeding the football team, pop-up Sunday, worship and prayer night, and what that will do is it will automatically loop through each of those slides every 10 seconds. So you'll see this one, 10 seconds later, it'll automatically go to this slide here. Same thing with this here. Then it continues to move forward, move on up. All of these slide through. And then at the end, it will loop back to the beginning. All of these are not their own independent items, though. These are linked items. And the way you do that is, since we have a pre-service and a post-service loop, you just go to whatever piece that you drop in here and go right-click, create linked item in post-service loop, and it will automatically drop in a version, a duplicate of what you've already made into the post-service loop, so that you can then just move that up to wherever you want that to be placed in the post-service loop. So that's the general idea there. As far as putting content in, all you do is click and drag into this section here on the left where you want it to be. And for photos, it's going to sync significantly faster. Videos may take a little bit, but there is a 600 megabit limit. So if your video is over that, you need to compress that with either a program like Handbrake, which is a great app to use. Desktop app, it's great, it's open source. All you do is click File, it'll open up where you have certain video files. So this was from Vacation Bible School, but let's say we're going to go to the River Dolphin. We can click that, open that up, and then you'll go through and make sure that it looks the way you want. I can see here that it has cropped the image and we didn't want that. So we can go custom cropping and 0, 0, 0, 0, and then it's a 1920 by 1080 on 1080p, 30 frames per second, and then you can just start the encoding and it'll re-encode your entire video at a smaller file size so that it can then drop into Proclaim. We do everything in 1080p, so we don't really need anything higher than that. We don't need anything in 4K. Even if we shoot something or do a project in 4K, we will compress it down for 1080p just to be able to fit it into Proclaim to show on Sunday morning. H.264 is the file type that we are working with. Not H.265. We've had some issues with that in the past, just based off of different hardware and computers that we've been using. But that's the general idea of how Proclaim works. Make your content first. Get all of your content from whoever you're getting content from. If someone else is preaching and it's up to you to put the content in, then just make sure you have all the notes, everything that you want to be in a slide, everything that they want in a slide. Make sure that you have all that information so that you can then just drop that same information into your preaching section there in the middle, and we'll do a video on that once I get content for this week. I'll record myself putting that together so that you can see how that works more practically. But outside of that, it's really just making announcement slide graphics. It's doing all of the different media pieces, and then it's very simple to put them into Proclaim. And now that all of my changes have been synced up, the computer over in the sanctuary already has all of the changes and all the content. It just has to download the media if it's something new. But outside of that, it's pretty straightforward. So thanks for watching, and hopefully this has been helpful. If you haven't used Proclaim before, or you have and you just needed a refresher, that's the general idea. And then next part will be how to upload sermon content into Proclaim so that people can see it the way that you want it seen. So thanks for watching, and remember, God is a creative God, and you were made in His image. So let's be creative, all for His glory. And we'll see you in the next one.